Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Meoni of the Clismcast here, back with another episode of my Kerbal space program adventures. Now in the last episode, I took my first steps towards creating a space station orbiting that of Kerbin, which is the home planet, the Earth-like planet in this Kerbal universe. And basically that went without a few hitches, really. I managed to get that up there. A few design issues made the whole process a little bit of a problem, and also we lost two of the Kerbals already to unfortunate deaths due to failed launches and with no safety precautions. However, this time I'm going to take all of my best interest to keep the remaining Kerbals for the remainder of this space program alive as much as possible. So here we are, we have built the second half of the module, the main core of the space station, which I'm sending up now in a similar way. We're using very similar procedures here, the two orange fuel tanks and then the inner fuel tanks obviously burning at the same time here until they're completely out of fuel. They will be jettisoned around 15 kilometers from the ground, and at that point we will be using the main engine here. Now on this version I've actually included a decoupler on this so we can completely get rid of that area in its entirety when we need to, so we can basically get rid of that excess weight and make the top of the ship look a lot prettier. So this will be the top of the space station, directly opposite from how it's standing now. And it has 4 solar panels that extend out, 2 more docking ports, so left and right there, and 1 on the top, which will mean that we can dock with the station below. So the way I've done this is I've launched into the plane of the target, and my target is obviously the space station core, the original piece which is already in orbit, which means that we're going up and there won't be that much corrections needed. And a lot less fuel needed to put this in a interception, home and transfer to the main station. And that's the reason you do that. You try and launch it into basically where the target is on a very similar launch that you originally had with the original piece. So as you can see here, we've put it in an orbit here. We're going to circularize this orbit, make it a bit more stable, and then we're going to make a phasing orbit, which basically means you go out a little bit further than the target, so you're actually moving a lot slower than the target, and then you make an interception, which is a home and transfer, where basically you push either the apoapsis or the periaps down by burning in the opposite direction to basically overlap the two planes. So you come round in a circle and basically collide with the target. Obviously collision is not what we're after here. We're actually after slowing down enough at the target, matching the target's velocity at a very small distance, so only about 200 meters from the target we'll match the same speed of it, and then we'll use RCS to perform the remainder of the maneuver into a docking position. Now, MakeJeb has an automatic docking computer built into it, so we're going to be using that. It uses a lot of RCS though, so fortunately we have a large tank of RCS, but usually I would say if you're any good at docking, I wouldn't use this computer, and really I haven't tried too much without it, so I don't know, I could probably do it, but to make things easier, let's just use this. Essentially what you do is you choose where you're controlling it from, which port, so you'd right click on your docking port, which for mine is at the top here, and I'd put control from here, and then I would right click and set the target as one of the docking ports where I want to dock with. Then I engage the autopilot and hope for the best. So as you can see here, it goes without a hitch really. It uses a lot of RCS, like a lot more, overcompensating, in fact too much. I'm just glad I don't have one of the small RCS tanks. But as it stands, we've managed to get it to join together, so all that's left to do now is to decouple this engine area completely, get rid of that so we have a nice shiny roof, and then we have to bring up our solar array. Let's just extend these panels so it looks badass. open these ports, and let's bring up the arrays. Now, like I said, this was the hardest part. Bringing up 2 girders, essentially. Everything weighs far too much in terms of just, like, everything has a huge mass for some reason. When you're creating things, there are a few things that need to be ironed out, but this is alpha. But, like, girders for some reason weigh like twice as much as a fucking space station half the time. So this is something that obviously needs to be tweaked and balanced a little. But regardless, I managed to get it up with a strange technique here. I was originally going to use the nuclear thrusters. Unfortunately, I realized late on that this wasn't sufficient in terms of thrust, and I had to go back to the drawing board and put on some of these LVT-45s, I think they're called, the big rockets on these two rockets here. Like I say, everything weighs far too much, and it was a real challenge to get these up, and I had to do this obviously twice. The only problem was when I got it up there, and I'm going to skip on here past the boring bits, but when I got it up there, I realized that I put on the wrong docking port on the front of the damn girder, so essentially my solar array was useless. So I went back and put the larger docking port on the end of it and launched it again, and here it is. I managed to get it to dock. Unfortunately, like I say, all of my launchers seem to be in pitch black, so I apologize for that. Not sure why, but I always seem to time these missions poorly. But like I say, we managed to get the first one in just about, after a lot of maneuvering and a lot of time. You have no idea the amount of time I had to wait for it to be in a right position for a home and transfer with the remaining fuel. Otherwise it would have simply not got here and have gone into the atmosphere and burnt up. So we had to do this twice, but we successfully managed it finally, and we're going to follow the last stage here, this last solar array coming up in all its glory, and basically mission success. It will look amazing. Let's watch this. So yes, it was definitely a challenge, and not something that I would do again in a hurry. Jesus Christ. There's still a lot more to do on this, like I say. I mean, this isn't a complete station. We still need a way of refueling other craft. Now, we do have that fuel tank at the bottom there for the original booster, so we can just keep siphoning off ships that come up here into that tank. It's a large tank. It's enough to fill those white tanks on the LV-45s I've been using, but really we're going to need a single stage booster up here, a big mainsail full of fuel. So I might do that in the next episode. Like I say, this is a short update, really, a short video than I'd like, but I don't really have much more footage for you today. It took me far too long to do this, so I'm going to share some outtakes with you now at the end of this video. Quite a few of them, a few of my failings, and I will try and guide you through all of the stages of what went wrong. So for our first cock-up, with the previous nuclear idea that I had, apart from that being a major cock-up in terms of a lack of thrust for the girder itself, despite that we messed up with the staging and unfortunately released the gantry before launching any of the rockets at all. So as you could tell, this is a very common mistake. I mess up on staging or forget that I've changed something or added gantry and put it in a really stupid place. So obviously there's crash and burns on the platform. The next one's a little bit more interesting. This next launch is a little bit more subtle, obviously with the craft being so close to the damn launch pad. There's another difficulty. One of my wings was completely ripped off, which I didn't think would be such a huge deal, but unfortunately it was, and caused my ship to spiral out of control to the point where I couldn't even save it, and I tried to detach the two mainsail rockets only for them to collide and rip off my engines, so that was another issue. So this is something I'm glad there's a save function for. I have to F9 this stuff up when it goes wrong like this, but I put my trust in the docking computer for the two main capsule parts to dock, and unfortunately it slams straight into the side of it, which obviously causes the previous episode's rocket to just twiddle over and spin off into the distance, which meant I was never going to properly be able to dock with it again, with my limited RCS amount. So obviously I had to F9 this up and reload it, because otherwise I'd get this craft up here, but I worked my arse off to get it into a rendezvous with what little fuel it has, and now I've completely run out of bloody RCS fuel. So I reloaded this, obviously, for this video, but this is one of the biggest problems I had on my limited RCS to mass ratio budget. But yeah, there we go. Anyway, but that's all my cock-ups. This took me a very long time. And in the next episode, like I say, we're going to make some kind of recovery vehicle so we can get people back from the station back to Kerbin's surface safely. And also, we're going to try and put a refueling part on that station up there so we can actually go for much greater projects. So yeah, until next time, thank you for watching my video. Subscribe for more. My name's been Meoni of the Cast, and I'll see you next time in space.